There's another line in the Hopi prophecies, and that's one that we have to jump onto that goes on and on forever. That's our choice. We, the people, have to choose it. It is not going to be done for you like a Ouija board in Washington or in Wall Street. We're going to have to unite and do this ourselves.
You can imagine a civilization that has figured out the over-unity question as being one in which the centralization of power, and therefore the centralization of the inputs necessary for the growth of civilization, becomes more decentralized. So rather than these power stations that are clustered around big cities, you can have energy generation mechanisms in every home.
And this is why it's a new world, because it's a power to the people. And what it means, it's literally not just electric power and energy, but actual political power. And in the industrial era, from the 1800s to now, it's gotten more and more concentrated. This is going to return the power to every village and every person. Even the deserts shall bloom, as it says in the Bible. And in Africa and around the world, they're going to leapfrog past where we are with all this electricity and wiring and power lines and power plants like they did telephones. They went straight to cell. But this is a bigger leap where all over the world, all these impoverished areas, every little village and community will have its own energy generator for pulling water out of the humidity of the air. We have the technology to do that now. Why isn't it used? Because it uses a lot of electricity, which is polluting and expensive. It'll be a global village, all interconnected, but also all self-sufficient. Complete local self-sufficiency with no pollution. That's the world we could have had beginning in the 20s. 100 years later, may I suggest we accept it. It's time.
We are 100 years behind where we should be right now. Why are we still pounding metal nails into boards to build houses? Why are we still loading up shipping containers on tankers and taking 2 months to get here? This is all a construct.
And I call this a time snap. A time snap is when things have gone so far off track, the only way to fix it is for the people to unite, come up with a totally different strategy where in a decade to 2 decades, we make up for 100 years. It can happen. And, if nothing else, humans do want to survive. But this is now a survival question for every man, woman, and child on the earth. So that's why we have to do this.
We have to remember also that the capacity for life to heal is almost unlimited. And we see this already with people who are restoring ecosystems and regenerating farmland. Even in a few years, miracles happen. Springs that have been dead for generations come back to life. Species that hadn't been seen in the area seemingly magically reappear. And so we can't forget that. We can't succumb to a despair that is founded in our distrust of the power of life itself, which again is part of the origin of our current condition.
Visualize your house off the grid, clean energy, no wiring. Why? Because every device, whether it's this size device or your refrigerator, will have a small, solid state, quantum vacuum, zero-point energy device in it, running it. So there's no electromagnetic fields running through your house because you don't need wiring. Think what that'll do to construction costs and the simplicity of it. And here we are in the Sahara Desert, and you want to grow food? You create a biosphere dome. It's run on free, clean energy, as we've demonstrated. You're growing oranges. You can grow crops. You can have different zones in it for different temperature and humidity control. So anywhere on the planet that you need to have foods, it could be done under controlled circumstances, digitally automated, but with no cost for the energy and the water, virtually none. What that means is the food scarcity and starvation we're facing, that goes away very quickly in a 20-year period. Here's your typical street in your neighborhood and anywhere in the world. And as we bring these technologies out, the grid comes down. We don't need it anymore. When there's a snowstorm or hurricane or whatever, you don't lose power because you're not dependent on a grid that's going to be torn down by ice and snow and wind. You don't need wires. All these wires, the clutter of wires, you don't need them. because every device will have its own source of energy. This could have been done decades ago. As we bring these out, all these freeways will be replaced. All the lines and power lines will go away. We can float above the surface. And in every city in the world, we're going to see this transformation. Every village in the world. And then we have these cities, eventually where you're just floating, they're guided pathways, the ground is pristine. And then we're going out into space. So everyone remember where our destiny is. Our destiny is not just Earth, it's the whole cosmos. How